here I will use the same deep learning models I had in the previous video, and I will show you how to export the code. In order to run this, you can head to Prython's downloads page and download the Keras plus sklearn example. This is a Python example, by the way. Check the upper part. There is a button that says Save Code When Running No. If I click on that, I will be able to choose a folder where I can export my code every time I run this. Now, after having chosen a folder, whenever I run a panel using either one of the three modes, all the results will get exported. I will, for example, click on Run Everything below. So here I should be seeing three different scripts. If I now go to the specific folder and find the three files that were generated, you can see them here. I can click on either one and check what's inside. As you would expect, I have the complete code that is obtained for each panel. And if I had clicked on the run up to that panel, the outputs would certainly be different depending on which panel I had used to click.